384-2191.
We are into the first Friday of May, live here on AM 1450 WDLB. You might be watching us here on Marshfield Access right now on 989 on your digital tier, or you can catch this on their Facebook page, I believe, as well. Of talking with Mayor Bob McManus here on the first Friday of the month. Good morning.
Good morning.
Spring is in the air finally, I think, here. And the orange barrels are starting to come out.
They're going to be out here pretty soon. It's a lot of road work is going to be taking place.
And how are we affording that? I mean, is that all budgeted for and everything is coming out as we had anticipated? Or?
Well, it's actually better. First of all, Central between Arnold and Harrison is being funded primarily by the state because it's a state highway. Just happens to go through our city, but it's a state highway. But we actually found more funding for roads. Actually, what we did is we got more efficient. I met with Dan Connect, Steve Barg, our stormwater people, our utility. This is back in November, and said we've got to find a way that we can work better together, even though they're all very good, and plan a little bit more to see if we can pull some money out of our current budget, or not our budget, our current plan, to see if there's a way we can become more efficient. Just looking for ideas, and I was met with a lot of blank stares, to be honest with you. But I'm very, very happy that first of all, Dan Connect and the city staff, they really are brilliant. He got together with Stormwater, and they actually found a way that if they do a little bit more planning, Stormwater has to go in and do some different things, replace some heads and things like that. So now what they're going to do is they're going to work together to see when Stormwater can actually get in and assist us on different roads. And so at the end of the day, that efficiency created another $65,000 for road work just this year. So if we could keep that up with better planning, I mean, you multiply that out by 10 or 20, it really gets helpful. So everything that's going on right now is budgeted. You can go to the website, and it's got to our city website, and it's got future road improvements. This was one of my things back in the campaign is transparency. What are we doing? Because what I heard before was people were saying, yeah, the city said that they were going to do my street, and it's been 10 years since they heard that. So now we have a bit of an accountability process, which is great. But if you go onto our website under future road improvements, you can see exactly what's being done this year, exactly how much it cost, and when it's scheduled to be done. So it's really, this website addition has been a tremendous thing. So Central's going to be, right now, they were starting on May 1st, and basically what happened is Merkel's out there putting up temporary lights over there on Arnold. So you're going to start seeing more and more of the orange barrels and things like that. And I believe they're going to start in the first, from now until late June, I believe it is. They will be working on the middle of the road, and then they'll get that fixed, and then they'll do the outskirts. So I'm hoping, that citizens here are patient with this road construction, and very, very careful of the road workers that are out there. And, the road workers try to be as careful as they can, but I just hope that people will drive more cautiously around those areas. You never know if a truck's going to be coming out, or maybe one of the road workers slips and falls backwards or something like that. If we're going slower, I think there's more time to react. So overall, it's very good.
It's the main thoroughfare in this city, and most everything that when you come into town is connected somehow with Central Avenue. And I know that's not true, but for people who come into town, that's what they think. I mean,
right.
That's the Strip in Vegas here,
right.
in Marshfield.
Well put.
So I understand, though, that this is going to be not a total reconstruct, but rather a resurface of. They'll take the top layers off and then resurface that. So it will be smoothed out, but it's not a total tear-up, which is going to be less, not only costly, but less time-consuming, obviously, as well.
Less time-consuming, and Dan and Tom Turchi really wanted it to be a road reconstruct because the substructure underneath there is really, really old. And so, but the state takes care of this, and so this actually, I believe, was supposed to be going on back in 2015. Got bumped to 2016, then it got bumped to 2018. Then you remember last year they called us a week before and said, "Oops." And so what they're trying to do by this overlay is get another 10 to maybe 12, 15 years out of it before they have to do a full reconstruction, which is absolutely what it needs to take place. The issue with that, of course, this came up last year. What if since that's really what should be done, what if we just did some engineering and such to where we could get that full reconstruct now? There's two issues there. Number one is the cost. The cost is substantial. And number two is the engineering behind that would be 3 to 5 years. So we're not looking for that kind of delay. So the state is hoping to get 10, maybe 15 years useful life out of the road where it's smooth, and then look to do a reconstruct there. So
that doesn't sound like much, but 10 to 15. But on the other hand, it's, I guess, better than rattling our teeth the way we are right now.
Well, that's you look at the two, and I'd much rather have this. Part of this, Jeff, and you see it. Basically, it's called kicking the can down the road, and then because when we get to 12 years, if they just start to look at that, then we're being to 17 to 18 years. So that is definitely a concern. But there has to be something done now, because that road is just not in good shape, and it's not a good representation of Marshfield. We get about 15,000 unique visitors here a day. Some people coming in to look for jobs, and of course our workforce is on that street. And Mother Nature is very difficult on roads, as we certainly saw this year, with the heaving and the expansion and everything, contraction and all this. So it's not the perfect fix, but it'll get us through.
Talking with Mayor Bob McManus, 384-2191 here, 384-2191, as we have an opportunity for you to talk with the mayor. Joanne, good morning. You're on with the mayor.
Yeah, I was just wondering, since the city redone the programming or anything like on the MCTV, are the original programs going to be on again sometime, or are they going to be on a different time, or putting something else on, or what?
Yeah, no, Joanne, that is a great question. We are just now in the tail end of getting our cable access back up. It has been a unique experience dealing with Charter to get this done, because we get funding from this from Charter. So you will see that it looks like we're down to the final 2 connection points. In an efficiency standard, we're moving, we moved out of a building over on McMillan, and now we're down there just across the street from City Hall. And we'll be running everything, all 3 channels out of there. So you should see the programming coming back online, I'd say, by early next week. And it's going to be a lot. There will be some of the old programming there as well. There's church services. I saw the Easter choir concert the other day that was very good. There's the polkas, and then there's other shows.
Last night.
What's that?
The polkas weren't on last night, and they weren't on last week Sunday.
Well, like I said, we're going through transition to get those done. The hookups are coming from Charter, and you should see that soon. Right now, if you look at channel 989 and 990, those are down. Everything is streaming through 991. And so you can watch until those others come on. If you go right now to channel 991, there's a full lineup of all the shows that were on 989 and 990. Everything right now is running on 991. And we hope to have everything up and running in sync by early next week.
Okay, thank you much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
All right, 384-2191 is our number here, 384-2191. Pete, go ahead. You're on with the mayor.
Good morning, gentlemen. In the fall, I talked with Dan Kneck. We're keeping on the street program here. There's a street behind B&H Ford called Wilderness View Drive that the nursing home is on.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of that, there's a cul-de-sac. And there has been numerous illegal activity going on in that area. And the Marshfield Police Department has been dispatched to them numerous times. I talked to Dan about getting some streetlights on that street. And he said he would get back with me, but never has. So I'm just bringing this out to your attention that is a Marshfield city street. It's owned by the city. It's maintained by the city. And there are street lighting guidelines that are not being upheld on that road. And I'd really like to see something happen there. I'll tell you, not only because of the illegal activity, but there are a lot of health caregivers that work at that facility, and they do have a relatively small parking lot, and there's parking permitted on one side of the street. And especially in the fall and the wintertime, when it's dark way early, we're just asking for somebody to get hurt by a car.
Sure.
I would really, really like to have that problem fixed.
Pete, can you give me the name of that street again? I know you said it's behind V&H.
It's called Wilderness View Drive.
Wilderness View Drive. And then if you would do me a favor, I will go over that with Dan today and see what what that looks like, or what is the situation there that can be done. Obviously, if there's illegal activity taking place, and that would be a something for our police department. But let me see what about the lighting and what that is. I cannot make you any promises, but I will say this, Pete. If you call back into the station here and give them your phone number, then I will call you later on today, unless you're comfortable giving out on the radio, which I wouldn't suggest you do. But this is the way I can get back to you. I'm happy to call you today after I speak with Dan regarding this issue.
I will be glad to recall. I think maybe Jeff might know who I am, but
okay.
I will recall.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
thank you. All right, 384-2191. 384-2191 is the radio station number here to get on live with Mayor Bob McManus this first Friday in the month of April. You know that if you're listening live. Or you could be watching us on... I think you can be watching us. Now that you said that, I didn't realize I haven't gone up there to see what you guys are doing. Was there a disconnect of some kind for a while?
991. Well, what we're doing is we're cutting over. So we had, and I don't know the exact verbiage of it, but we had certain connections here at the MCTV across the street. So now everything is over at City Hall, and Charter is connecting all three lines over there to the servers over there. So right now, 989 and 990 are down, because they're in the intercept. But if you go to those channels, it clearly says there that they're down for maintenance. Go to 991 for all the programming. So all the programming, there's polka on there, there's church services, there's city meetings, there's a lot going on. So all of that you would be on 991. So my guess is, Tom, you can let me know this one. It's being run live right now.
Okay.
This show is.
It is. We're streaming live right now?
This one is not.
Oh.
This one is not, but it will be on when you...
Correct. We
Okay.
will replay this show.
Okay. We'll be on rebroadcast, as I call it, even though it wasn't broadcast on video the first time. I don't know how else to word that.
Right.
It's rebroadcast from the radio broadcast of it. We'll take a break and be back with more. You're invited, 384-2191, to join us here today. AM 1450 WDLB's Insight program here on this first Friday in May on what turned out to be a sunshiny morning here, maybe just a few rays in between the next round of showers. I know, spring showers, but come on here, we're floating away. I thought maybe my mud would dehydrate for a while, but it didn't. It's back to that again. So we will have another round here. You know that, of course, if you're watching us on video, as you have the luxury of knowing how this is all going to turn out, what we're talking about right now, coming to you live on WDLB and on media access, Marshfield Media Access here instead through the video, talking with Mayor Bob McManus, and you can too, 384-2191, 384-2191. We started out, of course, talking about road construction. That's on everybody's mind this time of the year, partly because it was, one, the busiest street in town, and two, it's been punted down the road a few times already, and everybody's just wondering, when is this finally going to get going, and how long is it going to take, and what kind of hassle does it mean for me, and all of those things that people talk about.
Sure.
So, how was the budget for? We'd had a big snow this past year. I would imagine that tore up some streets as well. That
did a ton of damage, and so that fortunately right now we're still. I'm not really sure where we're at as far as snow removal and whatnot. I'm sure we're over there, but the issue is their budget is from January 1st through, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed for November and December. We're just going to have to wait and see. However, that's one of those things that you budget for this, but when you have, February, when the prior record was 34 inches and then we got 53, there's no way a crystal ball is going to do that. And if something like that, if you do have to go over budget, I'm not sure if we are yet or not, public safety is the most important thing. So we're always going to make sure that we err on the side of safety.
As I understand it, your budget is a calendar year, and obviously the winter is not.
Right.
So what happened in 2019 will come out of 2019 fall budget as well. Hopefully we don't have any kind of massive amounts in the fall of 2019 either, because that's going to be in that same calendar year.
Correct. And that's why we're just, have no idea what's going to happen with the weather. I heard your weather report you were doing earlier, and you're saying next week is going to be a lot like this week, and it's still, mid 50s. It's cold. So I don't know if you could do something about that. You tell the weather. I mean, maybe tell something different, or maybe get the sun to shine a little more. I don't know.
You think I'd have to be working here?
It sure would be nice, though, in that kind of world, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
Wishful thinking, they call it.
I know. Talking about the city business here, you can join us, 384-2191, 384-2191. I just want to touch briefly on a story that we had here on WDLB earlier this week, which was a expansion of a business. And I heard Steve Barg say that, and he did point out, people see the high-profile closings of retail, but without that background of jobs and expansions happening, I mean, the city itself is happy. And when you come out and make comments like we're doing okay, and people see the businesses closing, they think you're blowing smoke. But we're doing okay. As far as our economy in the city is concerned. Evidently there's been some added jobs, and where business park is okay. And
absolutely, innovative machine is expanding. Many businesses are expanding, but you're right, we don't hear about that Jeff, that does not get the press. That is not exciting to hear good news of this is expanding. What we hear about is, oh my gosh, these jobs are lost, and yet what we just heard is unemployment is down at 3.67. And if you go here in Marshfield right now, there are jobs open everywhere. Our employers can't find people. And so that's one of the reasons we want to find ways to do more housing here, is to get more of a workforce. But there's businesses here that are starting wages, Jeff, of $17, $18, $19 an hour. They can't fill those jobs. So on the big picture, you hear this one thing about when Figgy's closed. From one point, from the history of Marshfield point, this is devastating. From the point of those people there were displaced, because when people go to their jobs, some people are happy in their jobs, some people aren't. But what we know is they spend 40, 50 hours a week with these same people. And so when that door closes, that's hard. These are relationships, these are friendships. And so we don't want to downplay that. Those are two very, very big things. The history of Figgy's and as well as people losing their jobs and their sense of normalcy. They know where they're going to go Monday. They know what they're going to do in their job. There's no discounting that displacement. But I will tell you, when that happened, area employers were like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to get an influx of people that can work." So, when you look at it right now, yes, it is, and there's no downplaying the fact that there are some businesses that close. You and I don't know, nor do we on the council know the financials of all these businesses here. We don't get involved in those. Those businesses make decisions on what is right or wrong for them. What we do know is there's a tremendous amount of jobs available now, which is why you're saying, there's stores closing, and then he's saying, everything is rosy. There's a little bit of truth to that. But here's the thing. The reality is if you want a job, there's plenty of jobs out there. Where it would be just saying certain things, Jeff, is if our unemployment rate was up at 5 or 6%, there were no jobs available, and then you have businesses closing. If you make a statement like everything is going okay then you're right. Then that's not very credible. But the facts of the matter are there's a lot of jobs available, and there's a lot of expansions. We have a couple new businesses coming to town. Uptown Coffee is coming into downtown. That's going to be a great thing, because the essence of a downtown is the community gathering places. There's the escape room that's going to be coming. That's going to be something a little bit different. It's going to be entertainment. You just don't get much press about those. There was some, but not a lot. But, there's other businesses that are, you just saw a local bank that was purchased or acquired by a bigger bank. Those things are going to take place all the time. So there's always businesses opening, there's always businesses closing. But when you look in that static middle of what we know is our economy is doing very, very well.
Talking with Mayor Bob McManus, you can too, live here on WDLB this first Friday in May, 384-2191, 384-2191. I haven't heard anything. There was a lot of talk for a short period of time about the hotel project. Where do we stand on that now in the former KC Hall?
That's been done for some time. That's been done for some time, 6 weeks or so. The developer is no longer interested in doing that.
Okay.
At that location.
So we're going to leave as is for the time being?
Leave as is for the time being.
Still on the to be sold, though. I mean, it's still for sale, the building.
It's still for sale. Of course, they've come down tremendously in their price, which for them, that was a big issue. That was a big hit to the Knights of Columbus there, because they had a willing buyer, and there's contingencies that surround sales and whatnot, and they came down substantially in their price. And then at the end of the day, the developer just said, no, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Was there anything we could have done?
Sure.
that would have enticed them more?
Well, they wanted to come here. And so initially they were looking for TIF funding, tax increment financing. And so nobody really had an appetite to give them a developer incentive. So a developer, and there's a developer. So they wanted, I believe, when they did the review of how a TIF would look in there, I believe they said that it could make sense for up to $750,000 developer incentive. Well, they were coming in putting a $6 million project in there, so $750,000 isn't that much. But the council didn't have much of an appetite to give there, because then you're bringing in more competition. How's that going to affect the other hotels is what some people think. And so that is an issue. Why do people want to come here? Why does a hotel chain want to come here? Well, because our average occupancy rate is about 62%. In our neighboring cities is about 52%. Our average rate here is about $103. Average rates elsewhere about $79. Well, if you're a hoteler, that looks pretty good to come here. So then there was no incentive. So realistically, that first TIF was just the council just chose not to go along with it, even though It had been being discussed positively for 3 months. But that's okay. They could change their mind. Well, then the developer thought, okay, now I want to come back, and I don't want the developer incentive of $750,000. Don't give that to us, but still put it in a TIF, so that in a TIF district, so that then the roads can be paid for, and so we can put that in to really do those roads. So the developer's not really going to get anything out that. And then the other ask was about, and then taking out the assessments to the area business owners and where the streets would be done, and the homeowners, because when roads get done, it's shared with the homeowner. They get an assessment. So what they were asking for is do this, since the taxes now that we don't have, $127,000 tax amount there. Since we don't have that, take those taxes and pay for the roads with that. And then don't give the assessments to those homeowners and those other businesses, and them as well. And the council had no appetite for that. You got me. Because now we're talking about giving away $127,000 worth of tax base, and those homeowners and business owners are now going to have to pay the assessments when those streets get repaired. So I, for one, there are some people, there was an article about protectionism. When you do a TIF, are you picking winners and losers? I personally don't think we are. I believe that competition creates ingenuity and it makes you better. I believe in our other hotels. Bring someone else here. Okay, maybe you have to put on more specials or do this, or maybe the experience at your hotel is so that people will come there naturally. So I personally believe in our hotelers here, and we have a lot of great ones. And the council just made the decision that they didn't have an appetite for it. And when the developer saw that, they said, okay, message received. We'll go to another city.
Talking with Mayor Bob McManus, you can too, 384-2191, 384-2191. When you talk about development and new, the course of conversation also came up is, well, where's the help for the ones that are already here? You take the money and give it to the new ones and make everything, and I don't know how to, I feel bad for the people who are in business every day, don't get a break or a funding of some kind, but there has to be development funds for new and growth, which is a different thing than for the people who are here. I guess,
So that is a very interesting thing, and that's Innovative Machine. Why are they getting money? Because they're increasing the size of their business, their footprint, which will increase the tax base. So if you're talking about a local business who's going to increase their size or their space, which will increase the amount of tax that they pay, that's why it's called tax increment financing, that's where the benefit comes from. If it's just to go out and help ABC business get better in their business, but there's no, then what's going to make the payment? How are you going to get a return on whatever amount of money that you give them? You won't. Governments are not in business to do that. Governments are there if there's a way that we can increase the tax amount. And so that's why if a business is going to expand and they are going to get bigger, so there's going to be more tax available, then that increased tax would repay the money in there. Otherwise, you're talking about having that person repay it, and they can go to other funding sources other than government for that.
You become a loan officer then.
That's not what we're looking to do. So if a business wants to upgrade something, maybe they need to upgrade their computer system or something like that. That's not really what local government is there to do.
Well, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could take everybody's property taxes away?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah. And then this better start raining money instead of snow.
Start raining money. Well, the reality is everything is more expensive. Gas is shooting up. and everything is more expensive. Salaries are more expensive. We're paying more for 194 employees today than we are 5 years ago because things have gone up and whatnot. And that doesn't just happen. That's why over the last several years, they've kept taxes relatively static or relatively flat. At some point, it's you're going to run into an issue. I will say, we just had our debt load is down. We were at 65% debt load in the city, and now we're at about 59%. So we're definitely headed the right way for our debt. But the other very exciting thing is last week I had a meeting with, Mackey was there, Convention and Visitors Bureau, the utility, Main Street, EDB. We had a bunch of different people. It was actually about 30 people. And we were talking about what can we do. We went over 3 topics. We went over business, we went over housing, and we went over quality of life. I was just ecstatic about the meeting. And we left there with an action item to come back in 60 days with how each different entity, what we can do to message together properly so that we're all kind of saying in our own parts within the city, kind of delivering the same message. What came out of that is one of the biggest things is why do people go to certain restaurants? Why do people you hear a lot of negative comments about Marshfield and stuff like that. And yet there's a lot of people that leave Marshfield, go out into the big world, and they're drawn back, which is the same thing of why do people go to a certain restaurant over and over and over? And what we all came up with is it's the experience of Marshfield, right? When you go into certain restaurants, you feel like you're a part of. Jeff, how does one restaurant full to the brim? Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we kind of laugh at each other because it used to be going to dinner early was going to dinner at 6 o'clock. Now, if you're not to a lot of these places by 4:45, you're waiting 30 minutes. There's a certain experience when you go in those places. With the aquatic center that's coming up, there's an experience. There's an experience here in Marshfield. It's a great place to live. What I was so thrilled about is that so many different entities felt the same way. Next week, the Convention and Visitors Bureau is having a meeting, and my understanding they're going to be rolling out some new things. Some of the things that they're going to be rolling out are going to be, I'm told, I've not seen it yet, some things that we were talking about that night. How exciting is that? There are a lot of people, Jeff, that love Marshfield, and you're seeing more and more. Look at how many projects we've done. The library and the Wenzel Family Plaza and all the zoo, and how many people here gave generously of their money and of their time to get those things through. That's what Marshfield is about.
In this past week, Main Street Marshfield received an award for the Wenzel Plaza.
Oh my gosh, Jeff. And you remember this.
And you listen all to the conversation that was happening at the time, you'd think it was the dumbest thing ever done.
It was crazy. But that's the thing about negativity. Negativity could spread. There's no substance in it, but it gets people kind of wound up. But here's the issue. There were people in the city with vision. The people that donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, these are the people that love Marshfield. Those were the visionaries. And you're right. Prior to going around, this is crazy. What are we doing? All the stuff. And yet, we win an award for it.
Other people see that.
Other people see it. You better believe it. And there are a lot of people in Marshfield that see it as well. I mean, you go over there, as soon as it warms up just a little bit, there's people out there doing the yoga. They're running through the water feature. They're dancing around up on stage. Some of the seniors will come there on Saturday mornings, and they got polka folks playing their music there, and the seniors are walking around. What a great place. It's a gathering place. And you're going to see it with Hub City Days and the car show and the new lineup that they have on Friday nights. Every Friday night, there's a new band going to be playing there. It's a tremendous thing for the city. And you know what you don't hear anymore? You don't hear any more people saying it's a bad idea, because the reality took over. But what I've learned in my short time as mayor is you have to have vision, and you have to be convicted on your vision, because anytime you change something just a little bit, it creates a stir. How do you get better if you don't change?
We never did that. We never done that way before. Or we tried that once and it didn't work.
And
or whatever the negativity coming out is.
Well, and part of this, this, as you well know, this is not just happening here in Marshfield. This is everywhere. I mean, you look at the dialogue on Facebook, and if you don't think my way, then I'm unfriending you. I had a guy that I went to high school with, and I was just reading his Facebook. His birthday is today, and I sent him a little happy birthday, and he put a notice on his Facebook that said, I'm very fortunate. I'm 56 years old. I've had a very good life, all these different things. And he's like, please don't send me money. Please don't send me gifts. Go out and do something nice for somebody today. And I just thought, okay, that's what it's supposed to be about. But if you read a lot of this social media stuff, it just, it can really bring you down.
You can get caught in the social media cable news world really easy.
Yes, and you think that's reality, and it's not. It's not. There are a lot of great things about it. My grandson, who's coming here in August, I can't even wait. Part of social media is very good. My daughter sends me Snapchats every day, so I literally get to see him growing up. 3-4 minute Snapchats where I could watch him crawling around and doing things, and just broke 2 teeth and stuff like that. There's a lot of it that's really a positive thing and really good. And for messaging, I use it for to get messages out. I've been doing every Sunday. I go around. I've done the library, done a few different things. I did one this week on the roads, and I just go around and post it, and it gets great traction. I'm one of those people that loves Marshfield, and I'm convicted about it. I get a lot of people coming up to me thanking me for, they've seen some of the things that are going on, especially at the senior center when they got their bingo board up. That was a big deal, and that there are 2 extra parking spaces there. And I'm leaving here. I've got to run out right at 11 because going over to Lincoln and doing. They're having an Arbor Day celebration today, so I'm going to go over there and speak to the kids for a couple of minutes. I got to tell you, that's one of the great things about being mayors. You get to hang out with the kids. We're going to be giving them all the different local schools. We're going to be giving them tours of City Hall, and they're going to actually get in the alderman chairs and the mayor chair, and they're going to run their own little mock councils. And those things, I got to tell you, are priceless. And that's what I hang on to. Is those positive things. You have to look at the negative things because it's not everything is all rosy, but there's a lot of stuff really blown out of proportion.
Well, in Marshfield, the mayor position is more of a PR as much as and running the meetings.
Yes.
The endless meetings. We'll talk about that coming up here, too, the other part of it, with Mayor Bob McManus. You can join us live on radio, 384-2191, 384-2191 here on the Insight program. 1450 WDLB's Insight program this first Friday in the month of May. First Friday of the month gets a visit here at the WDLB Studios Insight program from Mayor Bob McManus, availing himself to your comments, questions, and concerns. His we call it the town hall on the air here, I guess. Anyway, you hold town hall meetings, but we hold one here once a month for people who would like to make a comment, and they don't have to stand up. They can sit down wherever they are. I don't care. As long as they're on the phone, they can give us a call here, 384-2191, 384-2191. We went to break talking about meetings. Your job is to appoint committee people as well. And you have how many, off the top of your head, committees?
How many committees? 15. Don't quote me on that, but
That you're,
right around there. There's a lot of committees.
and you need to find every one of those people?
Well, there are different terms that they have. So I think this year was, and some people re-sign up. There's a lot of different things. But I will tell you, the committees, the council, and myself, we rely on the committees because they do a lot of the work, which is the other thing I wanted to talk about with, our aldermen is there's an alderman on each committee. And there's a spot during meetings where there's updates from committees, commissions, things like that. So give the council an update on what is going on. Because unfortunately, sometimes things happen where these committees or boards will be working on something for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And then it comes to council and it's brand new to the council. Well, it shouldn't be. There should be updates there. But our committees are, these are great people that just do, and they're all volunteer and very dedicated to it. Our historic preservation folks, I can go through each committee. Our airport committee, I was talking to them last night. The report that they do, it's staggering. It's color-coded. We know how many planes come in, how much gas is in each each plane, how many times the wheel goes on the runway. It is amazing what they do.
Can you get me one?
A plane?
Yes. Can you? I would like to be able to travel a little more efficiently. Can you?
That'd be nice.
You don't have one?
I
either?
don't have one. No, it's not in the budget.
Oh,
no plane, no helicopter.
I can't even ride along with the clinic and up to the hospital.
Right.
I'll meet you there, I said. Just drop me off halfway. No,
right.
They wouldn't do that. So how did the process evolve this year? Is it done? Are all committees in place now?
There is one. Well, most of the appointments were accepted just fine, but they all are. The police and fire, commission is still pending final approval, which will be on the hopefully on the 14th, and hopefully then they will all be not quite full. Board of Review and Board of Appeals are hard to get people for, so we'll still have openings. They all have enough to function. To have quorums for their meetings.
Who does it have to be approved by? You said it when it gets approval. Is it?
All appointments are mayor appointments.
Right.
And then the council has to approve them.
Oh.
So the council has the ultimate say.
I see. Talking with Mayor Bob McManus, you can too, 384-2191, 384-2191 here. And you and I talked about this before, earlier in the weekend. I brought it up to you that other people have mentioned to me. The City Hall Plaza and the sale of it, and the amounts were significantly different than what were originally quoted when the city proposed moving to what was the Forward Financial Bank building, where it is right now, and the move did happen. But there was a significant difference in numbers here on what it was proposed at the time. And all the numbers that were being bantied about were fine. It sounded like a wonderful deal. The city would keep the antenna rental, and we'd be making all kinds of inroads, but it didn't happen that way. So where do we stand right now? With somebody came in and did make a offer. Was that accepted now by the city?
It's been accepted, and it's supposed to close now, I believe, on the 9th. And the way, the way it was done originally, I was not here at the time. So I want to be real clear on that. Looking back on it, and even at the time, I don't even know why the buyer there did what they did. I know that there was a lot of incentive asked for, and they wanted to get it into a historical, as a historical building, and they were going to ask for a lot of TIF help from the city, and then they would be able to retain the antenna income for 10 years. Antenna income is about $135,000 a year. And I believe that sale was right around $3.5 million. And realistically, even if it would have been a historic site, once they went to the appraisal, which in my opinion, that's where the mistake was made. Why they didn't why the city didn't find out how much the building was worth before, I really have no idea why. Let me ask you, Jeff, if I was going to sell my house to you for $300,000, and you said, okay, I'll buy it for $300,000, but I need to get an appraisal on it. And then you found out that the property that I'm trying to sell you is only worth $135,000. Would you still buy it at $300,000?
Probably not.
Probably not. Yes?
Unless there's some other. Well, I just understand where you're going. Finish your thought.
Real world. Unless there's something else. Maybe, a star used to live there, something like that. We didn't get an appraisal done until last year to find out how much the property was worth. So everything that was being done before really, I don't know. I personally, I think it was a waste. The other thing is it was an RFP, so we put parameters, or the council at that time put parameters that when you buy this building, you can have a couple of levels for office, rentals and things like that, and then the top 3 floors to be, to put in home or condos or apartments, higher end apartments, because the idea was to get more people into downtown. Well, of course, when you make a very specific things like that, then you're going to get
limited proposals,
less proposals, and because there's less proposals, supply and demand, less proposals, they're going to ask you for more. So although the purchase price would have been more, and there was talk at the time that it was going to be revenue neutral. It's never going to be revenue neutral, because what wasn't calculated, in my understanding at the time, was the lost rent from the floors 1, 2, and 3. So be that as it may, all we are is where we are at now. So we're not even worried about what took place before. The bottom line is we had it for a while, and realistically, there was about $335,000 worth of income there. So you've got $335,000 worth of income between the antennas and the retail. But you also have about $2 million worth of repairs. That if you're going to keep this going, then you've got to pay that $2 to $2.5 million. So although you have less revenue, we're going to have less revenue, we're also not going to have that $2.5 million, $2 to $2.5 million of potential work. And the buyer has been made aware of everything that was there. So, we're coming out of this at the offer is $900,000, which is, some of the offers that we got were substantially lower than that, and with other things attached. So at $900,000, it'll be back up on the tax rolls. They keep all the income at that time, and they take care of the repairs. So overall, it's I think probably the best we could do given the situation.
So where the people here are wondering, and it just occurred to me what you just said here, is that there's $130,000 in antenna rental that we're not going to get now, that we had anticipated we would keep that money. And now you mentioned how much in rent for retail space?
Total between the retail space and the antenna is right around $340,000
a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now the problem with that is that a lot of those antennas are the city property.
All those
won't we have to rent back our own property?
No. Most of those antennas are all different cable and phone carriers. That's where the income comes from. So $340,000 sounds like a lot. It is a lot. I think you and I would both agree on that.
I'll take that.
But when you look at the expense to run it, that's your income, but you got to pay for the electricity. You got to pay for everything else. You probably got about $175,000 in there. So the net you'd be looking at is a potential profit right around $150 or $160 every year that in essence went into our general fund. However, when you would have to be doing that constant upgrading to everything, I don't know how much would be there. So the decision was made a while ago to sell it with don't put any parameters on it. Let the free market speak. You got a buyer and you got a seller, and the seller and the buyer came along with a good offer. We went back and forth a little bit, and it's scheduled to close. I believe now it's scheduled to close on the 9th.
And then it will be done?
It'll be done.
And what about Stroman Park next to it?
Stroman Park is staying Stroman Park. That's not included in the sale. That's a deep part of Marshfield history.
So the city's still going to own and maintain that little
Absolutely.
that little patch next
Absolutely.
to the building? What do you anticipate is going to happen with that City Hall Plaza? Is it staying like it is with retail below, and what are they going to do?
That's up. I know that the buyer is looking to take good care of it and fix it up some. I don't know whether it will be all office or maybe put some apartments up top. That is up to them, and they might change their mind down the road. We know it on the 9th. It'll be going back on the tax rolls, and we'll look forward to see what they're going to do.
Well, it won't be cheap to rent. You got an indoor tennis court there that comes along with it.
Right.
You got recreation built into your home.
Right.
There.
Right. It's
Right
very
there.
true.
All right, talking with Mayor Bob McManus, 384-2191, 384-2191 here on the Insight program for today. As we wind down our visit on this first Friday of the month, you know that if you're listening live. Otherwise, you may be able to seeing us in rebroadcast here. Marshfield Access is the 989, 990, 991, and you're telling me that's going to be up and running soon.
It's going to be up and running very soon. Our communications director, Tom Locks, has done a great job. Let me tell you something, dealing with Charter over the last several months has really been something. We appreciate what they have done. And we're finally down to, we have 2 items remaining for them to fix up, and then it'll be very efficient. Then Tom and David are going to start taping a lot of great shows, so we're going to see a lot of new content. It's very exciting what's going to take place, and it's going to run very smooth.
All right, thank you for your time. I always appreciate it every month.
Thank you.
Mayor Bob McManus here on AM 1450 WDLB's Insight program.